The vapor veil. Zephyra drifted through the corridors of the Nebula Seeker, her gaseous form shimmering with excitement. As the lead scientist on this deep space mission, she had dreamed of this moment her entire life. The Mist People's most advanced probe was about to transmit its first data from a distant solar system, potentially changing their understanding of the universe forever. Status report. Zephyra pulsed, her voice a melodic whisper of shifting frequencies. Cirrus, her second-in-command, coalesced beside her. All systems nominal. Lead scientist. The probe has entered the target system and is beginning its scan. The control room of the Nebula Seeker was a marvel of gaseous engineering. Swirling interfaces of concentrated vapor allowed the Mist People to interact with their technology, their consciousness flowing through the ship's systems like wind through leaves. As the first images from the probe materialized in the vapor screens, a hush fell over the assembled crew. Zephyra felt her form tremble with anticipation. Impossible, Cirrus whispered, his usually placid form rippling with shock. The screens showed a planet unlike anything the Mist People had ever encountered. Instead of the expected gaseous giants or diffuse nebulae, they saw a small rocky world with vast oceans of liquid and towering masses of solid matter. Zephyra struggled to process what she was seeing. "This defies everything we know about the nature of life," she said, her voice barely audible. "How could anything survive in such a hostile environment?" For millennia, the Mist People had believed that life could only exist in gaseous form. Their entire civilization was built around this fundamental principle. They lived on vast gas giants, their cities mere concentrations of vapor in the swirling atmospheres. The idea of solid matter supporting life was as alien to them as the concept of breathing was to a stone. Yet, as the probe delved deeper into its analysis, the evidence became undeniable. The sensors detected complex organic compounds, energy exchanges, and most shockingly, movement of solid objects that couldn't be explained by mere geological processes. "We need to alert the High Council immediately," Zephyra declared, her form swirling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "This discovery, it changes everything." As Cirrus prepared the communication array, Zephyra found herself lost in thought. If life could exist in solid form, what other assumptions about the universe might be wrong? The implications were staggering. The face of High Counselor Nimbus materialized in the vapor screen, his ancient form a complex swirl of muted colors. "Lead Scientist Zephyra, your urgent message has the Council intrigued. What have you discovered?" Zephyra took a moment to compose herself before responding. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the Council, we have made a discovery that challenges the very foundations of our scientific understanding." She proceeded to show them the data from the probe, explaining their findings with as much clarity as she could muster. As she spoke, she could see the vapor forms of the council members shifting and swirling, betraying their shock and disbelief. "This is unprecedented," Nimbus said after a long pause. "If verified, this discovery could reshape our entire society. Lead Scientist Zephyra, you are hereby ordered to investigate further. Take the Nebula Seeker to this solid world. We need to know more." The communication ended, leaving Zephyra and her crew in a state of stunned silence. They had expected to be called back for extensive debates and discussions. Instead, they were being sent into the unknown. "You heard the High Counselor," Zephyra said, her voice cutting through the quiet. "Prepare for long-range travel. We're going to see this world for ourselves." The next few cycles were a flurry of activity. The Nebula Seeker, originally designed for near-orbit research, had to be adapted for deep space travel. Zephyra worked tirelessly with her team, modifying their equipment to function in an environment they had only theorized about. As they made their final preparations, Zephyra called her crew together. "I know many of you are frightened," she began, her form pulsing with empathy. "We're about to venture into an environment utterly alien to our kind, but remember, we are scientists. Our purpose is to seek knowledge, to push the boundaries of understanding. Whatever we find on this world, it will expand our comprehension of the universe. Her words seemed to have the desired effect. The swirling forms of her crew steadied, their colors shifting to hues of determination and excitement. With a final check of their systems, the Nebula Seeker detached from its orbital dock. The ship, a masterpiece of gaseous engineering, looked like a small, shimmering nebula as it accelerated away from their home world. The journey to this solid planet was long, even with their advanced propulsion systems. Zafira spent much of the time reviewing the probe's data, trying to prepare herself and her crew for what they might encounter. As they approached their destination, the reality of what they were about to do began to sink in. They were going to attempt to study a world fundamentally different from anything they had ever known. "We're entering the planet's solar system," Cirrus announced, his form flickering with nervous energy. Zafira moved to the main viewport, watching as the alien star grew larger. And there, orbiting it, was the world that had upended everything they thought they knew. From a distance, it was beautiful. A sphere of blue and green and white, so unlike the swirling gas giants they called home. As they drew closer, details began to emerge. Vast oceans of liquid water, continents of solid rock, and swirling patterns of clouds that seemed almost familiar. "Begin atmospheric entry procedures," Zafira ordered, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. The Nebula Seeker was designed to operate in a variety of atmospheric conditions, but nothing could have prepared it for this. As they descended, the ship shuddered and groaned, the unfamiliar pressures and temperatures straining its systems. Zafira felt a moment of panic. What if they had miscalculated? What if their gaseous forms couldn't survive in this environment? But as they broke through the cloud layer, those fears were replaced by awe. Below them stretched a landscape beyond imagination. Mountains of solid rock thrust up from the ground, their peaks wreathed in clouds. Vast forests covered much of the land, a concept so alien that Zafira struggled to comprehend what she was seeing. And then something caught her attention. Movement, not the familiar swirling of gases, but the deliberate locomotion of solid objects. "Life," she whispered, her form shimmering with excitement. "We're seeing solid life forms." As the Nebula Seeker settled into a holding pattern high in the atmosphere, Zafira realized that they stood at the threshold of a new era. They had come seeking knowledge, and they had found a whole new world, teeming with life in a form they had never imagined possible. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same for the Mist People. They had lifted the vapor veil that had limited their understanding, and now a universe of infinite possibilities stretched out before them. Zafira turned to her crew, her form pulsing with determination. "Prepare the research modules," she said. "We have a new world to explore." Solid ground. The Nebula Seeker hovered high in the atmosphere of the alien world, its gaseous structure shimmering against the backdrop of blue sky. Inside, Zafira and her team were making final preparations for their descent to the surface. "Are the containment fields stable?" Zafira asked, her form flickering with nervous energy. Cirrus pulsed an affirmative. "Yes, lead scientist. The field should maintain our gaseous state even in the planet's dense lower atmosphere." Zafira nodded, a subtle ripple passing through her vaporous form. "Very well. Let's proceed with the landing." As the ship began its descent, the crew watched in awe as the landscape below came into sharper focus. Vast forests stretched out beneath them, a concept so foreign that the Mist People struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. "Those vertical structures," one of the junior scientists whispered, "they're individual life forms." "It appears so," Zafira replied, her voice filled with wonder. "Each one a discrete, solid entity. Remarkable." The Nebula Seeker touched down in a small clearing, its gaseous form billowing slightly as it settled on the solid ground. For a moment, nobody moved, the reality of what they were about to do sinking in. Zafira steeled herself. "Activate personal containment fields. We're going outside." One by one, the Mist People activated their protective bubbles, their gaseous forms condensing slightly within the energy fields. Zephyra led the way, passing through the ship's permeable hull and onto the alien world. The sensation was indescribable. Though protected by their fields, the Mist People could feel the incredible density of the environment. The ground beneath them was unyielding, a concept utterly foreign to beings used to floating through gaseous worlds. Incredible, Cirrus murmured, his form swirling with excitement. The solidity, it's everywhere. Zephyra moved cautiously forward, her sensors taking in every detail. The air was filled with tiny particles, dust, pollen, microscopic life forms. The ground was a complex ecosystem in itself, teeming with organisms living in the soil. As they explored the clearing, the scientists were overwhelmed by the diversity of life. Insects buzzed through the air, small mammals scurried through the underbrush, and birds called from the treetops. How can there be so many distinct species? One of the team wondered aloud. On our worlds, life is a continuous spectrum of gaseous forms. Zephyra was about to respond when a sound caught her attention. Something large was moving through the forest towards them. The team huddled together, unsure whether to retreat to the ship or stand their ground. From the trees emerged a creature unlike anything they had ever seen. It walked on 4 legs, its body covered in a thick, shaggy coat. 2 eyes regarded the Mist People with what seemed to be curiosity. Fascinating, Zephyra breathed. A large mammalian life form, completely solid, yet clearly alive and conscious. The creature, a bear, though the Mist People didn't know this term, sniffed the air, seemingly puzzled by the strange, shimmering forms before it. After a moment, it turned and lumbered back into the forest. The encounter left the team in a state of excited shock. They had just interacted, however briefly, with a solid life form. It was concrete proof that their long-held beliefs about the nature of life were incomplete. As they continued their exploration, the Mist People discovered countless wonders. They marveled at the complex root systems of trees, the intricate construction of a spider's web, the metamorphosis of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. But it was their encounter with the planet's dominant species that truly changed everything. It happened on the 3rd day of their expedition. The team was studying a small stream when they heard voices, not the whisper-like communications of their own kind, but sharp, distinct sounds. From around a bend in the stream came 2 bipedal creatures. They walked upright, their bodies covered in artificial layers, and they were manipulating solid objects with appendages Zephyra would later learn were called hands. The creatures stopped abruptly when they saw the Mist People, their faces displaying an expression that Zephyra interpreted as shock. "Hello," Zephyra said, using the communication system they had developed to project sound waves. "We come in peace." The 2 creatures looked at each other, then back at the Mist People. One of them pulled out a small device and began speaking into it rapidly. "I believe they're calling for assistance," Cirrus observed. "Should we retreat?" Zephyra considered for a moment. "No," she decided. "We came here to make contact. This is our chance." Over the next few hours, more of the bipedal creatures arrived. Some wore uniforms and carried equipment, while others appeared to be scientists or leaders. Despite the language barrier, both sides made efforts to communicate. The creatures, which called themselves humans, were as fascinated by the Mist People as the Mist People were by them. Through a combination of gestures, drawings, and mathematical equations, they began to establish a basic understanding. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Zephyra felt a sense of profound excitement. They had not only discovered solid life, but had made peaceful contact with an intelligent species. Back on the Nebula Seeker, the team gathered to discuss their findings. "Their technology is remarkable," one scientist noted. "They manipulate solid matter with incredible precision. And their social structures are complex," another added. "They have specializations, hierarchies, and systems of governance not unlike our own." Zephyra listened to her team's observations, her mind racing with the implications. "This changes everything," she said finally. "Not just our understanding of life, but our place in the universe. We are not alone, and the cosmos is far more diverse than we ever imagined." As she prepared her report for the High Council back home, Saphira knew that the repercussions of their discovery would be enormous. The Mist People would need to reevaluate their most fundamental beliefs about life and the universe. But as she looked out at the solid world beyond the ship, watched the sun set in a blaze of colors they had no words for in their language, Saphira felt a sense of hope. They had taken their first steps on solid ground, and a new era of exploration and understanding was just beginning. The Mist People had come seeking knowledge, and they had found a whole new world, solid, complex, and teeming with life. As the stars began to appear in the alien sky, Saphira allowed herself a moment of pure joy. The universe, she realized, was far more wonderful than they had ever dared to imagine. Cultural exchange. The weeks following first contact were a whirlwind of activity. Both the Mist People and the humans scrambled to establish more effective means of communication, each fascinated by the other's completely alien nature. Saphira found herself at the center of it all, coordinating with human scientists and diplomats to bridge the vast gulf between their species. The humans had set up a special facility near the landing site of the Nebula Seeker, equipped with atmospheric controls that allowed the Mist People to exist comfortably without their containment fields. "It's remarkable," Saphira said to Cirrus as they prepared for another day of cultural exchange. "The humans' ability to manipulate their environment is unlike anything we've seen." Cirrus pulsed agreement. "Their mastery of solid matter is impressive, but I find their thought processes even more intriguing. So linear." As they entered the exchange facility, they were greeted by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead human scientist assigned to the project. "Good morning, Saphira, Cirrus," Elena said, her voice clear through the translation devices they now all wore. "We have an exciting day planned. We'd like to introduce you to some of our art and music." The concept of art had been particularly challenging for the Mist People to grasp. On their gaseous worlds, everything was in constant flux. The idea of creating permanent, solid objects for aesthetic purposes was entirely foreign. Elena led them to a room where several paintings and sculptures were displayed. The Mist People drifted closer, their forms shimmering with curiosity. "This," Elena said, gesturing to a large canvas covered in swirls of color, "is an abstract painting. The artist used different colors and shapes to evoke emotions and ideas." Saphira studied the painting, her form rippling slightly. "It's beautiful," she said, surprising herself. "It reminds me of the gas storms on our homeworld." Elena smiled. "That's the power of art. It can speak to beings across the universe." Next, they moved to a sculpture, a twisting form of metal that seemed to defy gravity. Cirrus circled it, fascinated. "How is it maintaining its shape?" he asked. "Shouldn't it collapse under its own weight?" Elena explained the principles of structural engineering, leading to a lengthy discussion about the properties of different materials. The Mist People were amazed by the variety of solid substances humans used in their daily lives, each with its own unique characteristics. As the day progressed, they were introduced to music, another concept that required some explanation. The idea of manipulating sound waves for pleasure was not entirely alien to the Mist People, who had their own form of harmonic resonance, but the complexity and emotional depth of human music left them in awe. "This is a classical piece," Elena said, as the strains of a symphony filled the room. "It tells a story through sound." Saphira felt her form vibrating in sympathy with the music. "It's overwhelming," she said. "So many layers, so much complexity." The cultural exchange wasn't one-sided. The Mist People shared their own traditions and knowledge. They demonstrated their ability to alter their gaseous forms to communicate complex ideas, a display that left the human scientists speechless. "It's like a living language," one human researcher marveled. "Your very bodies are instruments of communication." Zephyra also introduced the humans to the Mist People's understanding of cosmic phenomena. Their gaseous nature allowed them to perceive aspects of the universe invisible to solid beings. "We can sense the flow of solar winds," Zephyra explained, her form shifting to illustrate the concept. "We navigate by the subtle currents of space itself." This revelation excited the human astrophysicists, who immediately saw the potential for advancing their understanding of the cosmos. As the days turned into weeks, both species found themselves constantly surprised and delighted by new discoveries. The humans were fascinated by the Mist People's fluid social structures and their ability to literally merge consciousness in group decision-making processes. The Mist People, in turn, were amazed by human individuality and the incredible diversity of cultures on a single planet. But the exchange wasn't without its challenges. Misunderstandings were frequent, often with humorous results. One day, a human diplomat attempted to shake hands with Zephyra, only to have his hand pass right through her containment field. Another time, Cirrus accidentally drifted through a wall, not realizing that solid barriers were meant to be impassable. "I still don't understand why you divide your living spaces into discrete rooms," Cirrus said, embarrassed by his mistake. Belina laughed. "And I'm still wrapping my head around the idea of a society where everyone is literally connected all the time. The concept of privacy must be so different for you." These incidents, while occasionally awkward, served to highlight the fundamental differences between their species and the need for patience and open-mindedness on both sides. As their understanding of each other grew, so did the potential for collaboration. Human engineers began working with Mist People scientists to develop new technologies that combine the strengths of both species. The Mist People's deep understanding of gaseous and plasma states led to breakthroughs in human energy production, while human expertise in manipulating solid matter opened up new possibilities for the Mist People's exploration of hostile environments. One area of particular interest was space exploration. The Mist People's ability to survive in a variety of atmospheric conditions made them ideal for exploring gas giants and other worlds inhospitable to humans. Conversely, humans' experience with solid planets could help the Mist People investigate worlds they had previously thought unreachable. "Imagine," Zephyra said during one planning session, "a joint mission to explore the galaxy. Our species working together, each compensating for the other's limitations." The idea captured the imagination of both sides. Plans were drawn up for a new type of spacecraft, one that could accommodate both gaseous and solid life forms. But as exciting as these developments were, they also brought new challenges. The growing cooperation between humans and Mist People was beginning to have far-reaching implications for both societies. On Earth, debates raged about the potential risks and benefits of close association with an alien species. Some welcomed the opportunity for advancement, while others feared the unknown consequences. Meanwhile, Zephyra received word from the High Council that their discoveries were causing significant upheaval back home. The confirmation of solid life had shaken the foundations of Mist People society, challenging long-held beliefs and sparking intense philosophical debates. "They're calling for you to return home," Cirrus told her privately. "The council needs your first-hand account to help address the growing unrest." Zephyra felt torn. She had grown deeply invested in the cultural exchange and the possibilities it presented. But she also understood her responsibility to her own people. As she prepared to announce her impending departure to her human colleagues, Zephyra reflected on how far they had come. In a relatively short time, two utterly alien species had found common ground, shared knowledge, and begun to forge a partnership that could reshape their understanding of the universe. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Zephyra was certain of one thing. The encounter between the Mist People and humanity had irrevocably changed both species. As she looked out at the solid world that had once seemed so impossible, she felt a sense of hope for the future. A future where the diversity of life in the cosmos was not a barrier, but a source of endless wonder and possibility. Crisis of faith. Zephyra's return to her home world was met with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As her ship, the Nebula Seeker, docked at the central hub of the gas giant they called home, she could sense the tension in the swirling patterns of her fellow Mist People. The High Council had convened an emergency session to hear her report. As Zephyra floated into the Grand Chamber, she was struck by how alien her own world now seemed after her time on Earth. The constant flux and flow of gaseous bodies, once so natural, now felt strange compared to the solid stability she had experienced. Lead scientist Zephyra, High Counselor Nimbus intoned, his ancient form a complex swirl of muted colors. "We welcome you home. Your discoveries have unsettled our world. We look to you for clarity." Zephyra pulsed acknowledgement and began her report. She described the solid world, the diversity of life forms, and the intelligence and complexity of human civilization. As she spoke, she could sense the ripples of shock and disbelief passing through the assembled council members. "This is impossible," one counselor interrupted, his form flickering with agitation. "How can life exist in such a hostile environment? It defies all our scientific principles." "And yet it does," Zephyra replied calmly. "We must accept that our understanding of the universe was incomplete. The humans have much to teach us, as we have much to teach them." The debate raged for days. News of Zephyra's report spread quickly through Mist People society, sparking intense discussions and philosophical debates. The population divided into factions, those who embraced the new knowledge and saw it as an opportunity for growth, and those who rejected it, seeing it as a threat to their way of life. Protests formed in the upper atmospheres, with swirling masses of Mist People arguing vehemently for and against continued contact with the humans. The normally harmonious society found itself in turmoil. In the scientific community, the reaction was equally divided. Many researchers, excited by the new frontiers of knowledge, eagerly began revising theories and planning new experiments. Others, however, refused to accept the validity of Zephyra's findings, claiming that she must have been deceived or that her equipment had malfunctioned. "Your so-called discoveries undermine millennia of established science," Professor Cumulus, a leading physicist, accused during a heated debate. "If we accept this, where does it end? Our entire understanding of the cosmos could be wrong." "That's precisely the point," Zephyra countered. "We must be willing to question everything we think we know. That is the essence of true science." The religious implications were perhaps the most profound. The Mist People's spirituality was deeply intertwined with their gaseous nature, with many believing that the constant flux of their forms reflected the fundamental nature of the universe. The existence of solid, permanent life forms challenged these beliefs at their core. Zephyra found herself called before the high priests of the eternal flow, the dominant religious order of her world. The chamber was thick with incense-like gases, swirling in sacred patterns. "You claim these. Humans have individual, unchanging forms?" the high priest asked, his tone incredulous. "How can this be reconciled with the great truth of constant change?" Zephyra chose her words carefully. "Perhaps the great truth is more complex than we realized. The humans change too, but in different ways. They grow, they learn, they transform their environment. Is that not also a form of flux?" Her words gave the priests pause, but she could sense their unease. It was clear that integrating this new reality into their spiritual framework would be a long and challenging process. Meanwhile, in the political sphere, debates raged about how to proceed with human relations. Some called for immediate and full engagement, eager to learn and trade with the new species. Others advocated for isolation, fearing that too much contact with the solid beings could somehow contaminate or fundamentally alter Mist People society. "We must approach this with caution," warned Counselor Stratus during a public address. "Yes, there is much we can learn, but we must not lose ourselves in the process. Our gaseous nature is fundamental to who we are." But others saw the contact as an opportunity for growth. "Think of the possibilities," argued Counselor Cirrus, who had accompanied Zephyra to Earth. "Combined, our knowledge could unlock secrets of the universe we've never dreamed of." As the debates continued, practical concerns began to emerge. How would they establish permanent diplomatic relations with a solid species? Could their technologies truly be integrated? What about the vast distances between their worlds? Zephyra found herself at the center of it all, constantly called upon to provide information, clarify misunderstandings, and offer her insights. The pressure was immense, and there were times when she longed for the relative simplicity of those first days of discovery on Earth. But through it all, she remained convinced of the importance of what they had begun. "We stand at a crossroads," she said in an address to the Science Academy. "We can choose to retreat into the comfortable confines of our old beliefs, or we can embrace this opportunity to expand our understanding of life and the universe. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's frightening. But isn't that the very essence of discovery?" Her words resonated with many, particularly the younger generation of mist people. They saw in the human contact a chance to be part of something truly historic, to redefine their species' place in the cosmos. Gradually, a shift began to occur. The initial shock and resistance began to give way to curiosity and cautious optimism. Research teams formed to study every aspect of human biology, culture, and technology. Plans were drawn up for expanded missions to Earth and other solid planets. Even in the religious realm, new interpretations of ancient doctrines began to emerge, seeking to incorporate the reality of solid life into their understanding of the universe's great mysteries. But the transition was not without its costs. Some members of society, unable to adapt to the new reality, chose to retreat to the deepest layers of their gas giant, forming isolated communities determined to maintain their traditional ways of life. The political landscape shifted as well, with new leaders emerging who were more open to interstellar cooperation. The High Council, after much deliberation, voted to establish a permanent diplomatic mission to Earth, with Zephyra appointed as the head ambassador. As she prepared for her return to the solid world, this time with a team of diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts, Zephyra reflected on the momentous changes her discovery had wrought. Her people had been shaken to their core, their most fundamental beliefs challenged. The process had been painful, but also incredibly invigorating. Looking out at the swirling storms of her home world, Zephyra felt a sense of pride in her people's resilience and adaptability. They had faced a crisis of faith, confronted beliefs held for millennia, and emerged stronger for it. As the new mission ship prepared for departure, Zephyra's form rippled with excitement and hope. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it promised to be the greatest adventure her species had ever undertaken. The Mist People were ready to take their place in a larger, more diverse universe than they had ever imagined. A new frontier. The launch of the Cosmic Voyager marked a new chapter in the history of both the Mist People and humanity. The ship, a marvel of joint engineering, hung in Earth's orbit like a shimmering mirage, part solid, part gaseous, a true blend of both worlds. Zephyra, now serving as both lead scientist and ambassador for the Mist People, drifted through the ship's unique dual-environment corridors. Half of the ship maintained Earth-like conditions for the human crew, while the other half replicated the gaseous environment of the Mist People's homeworld. Specialized airlocks and adaptive interfaces allowed for seamless interaction between the two sections. "Final systems check complete," announced Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human co-commander of the mission. Her voice came through clearly on Zephyra's personal translator. "We're ready for departure." Zephyra pulsed acknowledgement, her gaseous form shimmering with excitement. "Excellent. Shall we address the crew together?" They made their way to the Central Command Hub, a revolutionary space designed to accommodate both species simultaneously. As the joint crew assembled, humans in their sleek spacesuits, Mist People in their containment fields, Zephyra felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The road to this moment had been challenging, filled with cultural misunderstandings, scientific disagreements, and political hurdles. But they had persevered. "Fellow explorers," Elena began, her voice filled with emotion. "Today we embark on a journey unprecedented in the history of our species. Our mission is not just to explore new worlds, but to prove that beings as different as us can work together, learn from each other, and achieve wonders. Zafira continued, her words translated into sound waves for the human crew. We carry with us the hopes and dreams of both our peoples. Each of us brings unique strengths and perspectives. Together, we will see the universe through new eyes. With a final countdown, the Cosmic Voyager engaged its revolutionary hybrid drive, a fusion of human antimatter technology and the Mist People's gravity wave manipulation. The ship accelerated smoothly, leaving Earth and its moon behind in a matter of hours. Their first destination was a distant solar system that had long intrigued both species. It contained a curious mix of planets, gas giants that interested the Mist People, rocky worlds that fascinated the humans, and some that seemed to be a blend of both. As they traveled, the two species continued to learn from each other. Human scientists marveled at the Mist People's intuitive understanding of fluid dynamics and plasma physics, which led to improvements in their propulsion and energy systems. The Mist People, in turn, were fascinated by human medicine and biology, gaining insights that would revolutionize their understanding of life itself. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The close quarters of the ship sometimes led to tensions. The humans, used to clear personal boundaries, occasionally felt uncomfortable with the Mist People's tendency to drift through walls and merge temporarily with each other. The Mist People, meanwhile, struggled with the human need for privacy and solitude. I still don't understand why you need to be alone so often, Zafira commented to Elena one day. Doesn't it get lonely? Elena smiled. It's how we recharge, how we process our thoughts and feelings. But I can see how it might seem strange to a species that's constantly connected. These cultural exchanges, as challenging as they sometimes were, led to deep bonds forming between the two species. They learned to appreciate their differences as much as their similarities. Months into their journey, they made their first major discovery, a planet that defied categorization. Neither fully solid nor fully gaseous, its surface was a constantly shifting landscape of semi-solid matter, surrounded by a thick, complex atmosphere. It's beautiful, Zafira whispered as they entered orbit, like a bridge between our worlds. The exploration of this planet became a testament to the strengths of their partnership. The human team, with their experience in solid environments, developed specialized probes to study the shifting surface. The Mist People, with their expertise in gaseous phenomena, provided unprecedented insights into the planet's unique atmosphere. Their findings sent shockwaves through the scientific communities back home. It suggested that the line between solid and gaseous life forms might be more blurred than anyone had imagined. Philosophers and theologians on both worlds scrambled to incorporate this new understanding into their worldviews. As their mission continued, the Cosmic Voyager made discovery after discovery. They found worlds teeming with life, some familiar, some utterly alien. They witnessed the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. Each finding added to their growing realization of just how vast and diverse the universe truly was. But perhaps their greatest discovery was not out in the cosmos, but within themselves. As the journey progressed, the lines between human and mist person began to blur. Friendships formed that transcended physical form. Ideas and cultures merged and evolved. One pivotal moment came when a young human scientist and a mist person researcher collaborated to create a revolutionary translation algorithm. It didn't just convert words, but could interpret and convey the complex emotional and conceptual nuances of both species' communication methods. For the first time, they could truly, deeply understand each other. This breakthrough led to an explosion of joint creative and scientific endeavors. Human artists collaborated with mist people to create works that could be appreciated by both species. Scientists from both worlds worked together to tackle the greatest mysteries of the universe. As the Cosmic Voyager finally turned back towards home, laden with data and discoveries, Zafira and Elena reflected on their journey. We set out to explore the universe, Elena mused, but in many ways, we've been exploring ourselves. Zafira's form rippled in agreement. We've proven that the differences between us are not barriers, but gateways to greater understanding. Their return was met with jubilation on both worlds. The data they brought back would keep scientists busy for decades. But more importantly, they had demonstrated that two radically different forms of life could not just coexist, but thrive together. In the years that followed, the partnership between humans and mist people deepened. Exchange programs were established, allowing members of both species to live and work on each other's worlds. A new form of art emerged, blending the visual aesthetics of humanity with the dynamic, ever-changing expressions of the mist people. The scientific advancements continued at a breathtaking pace. The combining of their knowledge led to breakthroughs in physics, biology, and cosmology that neither species could have achieved alone. They developed new technologies for space travel, environmental adaptation, and energy production that would shape the future of both civilizations. But beyond the scientific and cultural exchanges, a profound shift had occurred in how both species viewed their place in the universe. They had moved from seeing themselves as single, isolated civilizations to understanding that they were part of a greater cosmic community. This new perspective led to a joint initiative to search for other intelligent life in the galaxy. The project, named Harmony of the Spheres, sent out dozens of ships, each crewed by both humans and mist people, to explore the far reaches of the Milky Way. As Zafira watched the launch of the first Harmony fleet, she reflected on the incredible journey that had led to this moment. From that first, shocking discovery of a world that shouldn't exist to this grand endeavor to unite the galaxy. "We've come so far," Alina said, standing beside her old friend. "And yet, in many ways, we're just beginning." Zafira's form shimmered in agreement. "The universe is vast, and full of wonders we have yet to imagine. But whatever we find out there, we'll face it together." As the ships disappeared into the starry void, Zafira felt a sense of profound optimism. They had overcome the barriers of biology, of physics, of understanding. They had learned that life, in all its diverse forms, was more resilient, more adaptable, and more wonderful than they had ever dreamed. The journey ahead was long, and undoubtedly filled with challenges, but Zafira knew that together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. Solid and gas, human and mist person, they were no longer separate species, but partners in the greatest adventure of all, the exploration of the infinite cosmos that they all called home.